My friends, the world will try to convince you that you need others, that you need circumstances to align, that you must wait for opportunities, for approval, for timing. But I tell you this, you only need yourself. For within you lies the source of all creation. Every image you have ever seen, every event you have ever lived, has first been conceived in the unseen chambers of your imagination. Look around. Every building, every invention, every piece of art, before it stood in stone or steel, it was first a vision in the mind of its creator. And so it is with your life. If you want to change your world, do not fight against conditions. Do not plead with others to give you what you think is lacking. Turn inward, for the secret of your tomorrow is hidden in the picture you carry of yourself today. When you dare to believe in the unseen, when you assume within yourself the feeling of your desire fulfilled, you are planting the seed that must by law appear in your outer world. The world cannot resist the conviction of one who inwardly knows. Your inner conversations are the builders of your destiny. What you whisper to yourself in silence, those quiet repetitions of doubt or of faith, become the very structure of your experience. If you persist in speaking to yourself as though you already are the person you desire to be, the world has no choice but to echo it back to you. No man, no woman, no condition holds your future. Only you do. For your world is your own reflection, faithfully showing you who you assume yourself to be. If you see lack, it is the projection of a mind dwelling on lack. If you see abundance, it is because you have embraced abundance within. So I say, stand firm in your vision. Do not wait for permission. Do not seek validation. Assume the end boldly and live in it as though it were already here. When you walk in that state, life bends itself to fulfill your conviction. For in truth, you only need yourself. And when you discover that, you will find that the self within you is far greater than you ever imagined. Imagination is the true source of creation, the silent workshop where all things are born. Before a single event unfolds in your outer world, it is first conceived in the unseen depths of your inner world. The thoughts you dwell upon, the pictures you allow to dominate your mind, and the emotions you attach to those pictures all become the blueprint from which your life is built. You may think circumstances create your experience, but in truth, it is your inner state that molds the circumstances. Change your thoughts, and the world changes. For the world is nothing but the reflection of your consciousness. Consider for a moment the things that surround you. Every invention you use, every building you enter, every work of art you admire, all of them were once invisible. They existed only as an idea, an image within someone's imagination. Before the plane ever flew, it was only a vision in the mind of its creator. Before a great book was written, it was only a dream whispered silently within. The outer form was simply the shadow of an inner conviction. So it is with your own life. The experiences you meet, whether pleasant or unpleasant, are the shadows cast by the thoughts you persist in entertaining. Most people believe they are victims of circumstance, but this is only because they do not realize the power they hold. They look at what is happening around them and assume that the world is fixed, unchangeable, and independent of their inner life. But the truth is the opposite. The outer is always the servant of the inner. When you alter the pictures you carry of yourself and the world, the conditions that once seemed immovable begin to bend. New opportunities appear. Old obstacles dissolve. What once seemed impossible becomes natural. Imagination is not idle fantasy, it is creative power. To imagine yourself healthy while feeling the reality of it is to set in motion the very forces that bring health into your experience. To imagine success while dwelling in the feeling of already being successful is to call success forth from the unseen. The world responds not to what you want faintly, but to what you assume vividly. This is why a passing thought carries little weight, but a sustained inner vision, accepted as truth, must eventually clothe itself in fact. When you recognize this, you stop blaming others for your condition. You no longer plead with life to give you what you lack. Instead, you turn inward and claim it within. You assume the end boldly and dwell in it until it feels real. And because imagination is the womb of creation, that which you hold inwardly must be delivered outwardly. So when you wish to change your life, do not fight against appearances. Do not wrestle with shadows. Simply change your inner state. Live in the vision of what you desire as though it were already true. Persist in that assumption, and the world, being nothing more than your mirror, will reflect it back. Imagination is the true source of creation, and in learning to master it, you master life itself. Faith in the unseen shapes the seen. For all that comes into being first exists as an invisible seed within the mind. The visible world, which you call reality, is only the harvest of beliefs that have been planted and nurtured in the unseen soil of consciousness. What you accept inwardly, even before there is the slightest evidence of it outwardly, must, by an unbreakable law, manifest in your world. Faith is not hoping that something might occur, nor is it merely wishing for a better tomorrow. Faith is the inner certainty, the quiet conviction that what you hold in imagination is already yours, even though the senses deny it. This truth has been echoed through the ages. The world you see is but a reflection of the unseen you have embraced. A person who carries within themselves the belief of unworthiness will encounter a life that reflects rejection and limitation. Another, who holds inwardly the sense of dignity and abundance, will walk through doors that open almost effortlessly. The difference is not found in fortune, environment, or luck. It is found in faith. It is found in what each has accepted inwardly as true of themselves. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the unseen cause that calls forth the seen effect. To walk in faith is to live from the end, to assume the state you desire and dwell in it as though it were already present. This is not pretending, nor is it self-deception. It is recognizing that the unseen is the true reality, and that what you see with your physical eyes is but the shadow of what has already been accepted in the inner realm. Just as a seed once planted must produce after its kind, so too must the inward acceptance produce outwardly. Consider the artist who sees the completed painting in their mind before a single stroke touches the canvas, or the architect who carries the vision of a building before one stone is laid. They do not doubt, they do not question, they know. And because they know, the outer form must eventually match the inner picture. This is the same law by which your life unfolds. What you accept inwardly with faith and persistence must materialize. The senses often argue against this. They show you what appears to be lack, limitation, or delay. But faith pays no attention to the evidence of the senses. Faith holds to the unseen reality, even when the outer world seems to contradict it. In doing so, faith reshapes the outer world. To believe only when you see is not faith at all. It is simply agreement with appearances. True faith believes first, and then the seen follows. So when you desire change, you must begin not by waiting for outer confirmation, but by embracing the unseen within. Accept it now as real, live in its feeling, and persist regardless of appearances. In time, the world will conform, for faith in the unseen shapes the seen, and the unseen you have claimed will inevitably become the life you live. The inner conversation creates the outer reality, for the dialogue you carry on within yourself is the true author of your experiences. Every day, you speak silently in the chambers of your mind. You question, you affirm, you doubt, you rehearse possibilities, and you revisit memories. These words may never be spoken aloud, but they form the pattern of your life. The words you repeat in silence become the echoes of your world, returning to you as events, circumstances, and encounters. You may think life is happening to you, but in truth it is responding to the script you are writing, moment by moment. Within. Your inner conversation is not idle, it is creative. When you silently say, I can't, you plant the seed of limitation. When you whisper to yourself, I am unlucky, the world mirrors back experiences that reinforce that belief. Conversely, when you affirm within, I am able, I am worthy, I am successful, even if no outer evidence yet exists, you set in motion the forces that bring those realities to pass. Life has no choice but to reflect the tone of your inner speech, for your world is a mirror of your assumptions. Most people are unaware of the power of their inner talk. They complain of lack, but their secret dialogue is filled with words of doubt and fear. They long for success, but in silence they argue for their own smallness. They wonder why nothing changes, yet every night as they drift to sleep, they rehearse the same stories of failure or rejection. The world faithfully reflects these conversations not as punishment, but as law. The inner dialogue sustained becomes the outer event lived. The transformation of life begins with the transformation of speech. First, the silent speech within. You do not have to shout, you do not have to force, you need only to persist in a new conversation. When you begin to tell yourself in silence, I am already what I desire to be. I am living in my answered prayer. Something subtle yet powerful shifts within you. The outer world, though it may seem unchanged at first, cannot resist the steady pressure of your new inner word. It must eventually echo back what you have claimed inwardly. Imagine two actors rehearsing a play. If the lines they speak change, the story itself changes. So it is with you. Your life is the stage, but the script is written in your silent conversations. Change the script and the performance must follow. This is why it is so vital to guard your inner talk. Every repetition strengthens an assumption. Every word spoken in silence is a seed cast into the soil of consciousness. If you persist in sowing words of faith, strength, and fulfillment, your harvest will be a life that bears those very qualities. Therefore, listen carefully to what you say to yourself when no one else is listening. Train the voice within to agree with your highest vision, not your present limitation. For the inner conversation creates the outer reality. And the words you whisper in silence will one day be shouted by the circumstances of your life. Self is the only power you need, for within you lies the source of all creation and all transformation. Too often, people believe their destiny depends on the approval of others, on the rise and fall of circumstances, or on conditions beyond their control. They wait for opportunities, depend on authority, and look to external forces to determine their worth. Yet the truth is far simpler and infinitely more empowering. No external authority, no condition, no person can limit what you assume to be true of yourself. Your own self, your inner conviction of who you are, is the one and only power that shapes your world. The self is not the fragile personality shaped by opinions or experiences. It is the deeper awareness that assumes, imagines, and believes. This inner self is sovereign, and it rules the outer world by what it accepts as true. If you assume yourself to be weak, life will echo weakness. If you assume yourself to be strong, life will provide situations that confirm your strength. Others may try to influence you. Circumstances may appear threatening, yet all of these are shadow. The real substance is what you hold inwardly. History and everyday life alike testify to this. How many have risen from obscurity to greatness simply because they assumed themselves capable, even when no one else believed in them? How many have broken through limitation because they refused to accept the labels that the world placed upon them? In contrast, how many with every advantage still live small lives because they accepted an inner story of fear or inadequacy? The deciding factor was never external. It was always the self-concept carried within. When you truly grasp this, dependence on others begins to fall away. You no longer wait for validation, for permission, or for circumstances to line up. You stop pleading with the world to give you what you already possess inwardly. Instead, you assume the state you desire and live in it boldly. You realize that to change the world outside, you must first change the image of yourself inside. The outer will always reflect the inner, and the inner is entirely under your authority. To believe that others hold power over you is to give away your birthright. No one can imprison your imagination. No one can dictate your assumptions. You may be in a place of difficulty, yet the moment you assume a new state of being, you set in motion a new future. This is why the self is the only true power. It alone decides what you accept, and what you accept must eventually appear in form. Dare to believe greatly of yourself. Assume that you are already the person you desire to be. Walk in that conviction, even when the outer world seems unchanged. The world has no choice but to mirror back the truth you have embraced within. Self is the only power you need, and when you discover this, you realize that freedom, creation, and fulfillment are already yours. Assume the end and live in it, for by dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you call into being what already exists in spirit. Every desire you hold is not a random longing, but a signpost pointing toward a reality that is already alive within the unseen. When you desire something deeply, it is life itself, whispering to you that it is possible, that it is waiting for your acceptance. The way to bring it into form is not through struggle or endless effort, but by assuming the end and living in it now. And to assume the end is to occupy the state of fulfillment even before any outer evidence supports it. It is to walk, speak, and think as though the desired outcome were already yours. The mind may argue that this is foolish, that you must wait until circumstances prove it, but waiting for the world to change before you change within is to remain at the mercy of appearances. The law of creation works in the opposite direction. You change first, inwardly, and the world, compelled by your assumption, reshapes itself to reflect your inner state. When you assume the end, you are not pretending. You are aligning with the deeper reality, for everything that can ever exist already exists in spirit. The unseen is the true storehouse of all things, and your assumption is the act of claiming it. To live in the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to declare, "This is already mine. I walk in its reality now." When you persist in this conviction, the outer world must conform, for the unseen is always the cause of the seen. Consider an actor preparing for a role. Though the play has not yet begun, they take on the character, walking, speaking, and feeling as that character would. In time, the audience accepts this reality without question. So it is with you. By assuming the end and embodying it inwardly, you step into the role of the person you desire to be. Soon, life itself becomes the stage that reflects the part you have chosen. The secret lies in the feeling. Words alone will not do. It is the emotional acceptance that carries creative power. To feel the joy of success before success arrives, to rest in the peace of answered prayer before the evidence appears, this is the way to draw it into form. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the magnetic force that attracts to you the conditions necessary to give it life. Many wait for signs before they believe, but the one who assumes the end needs no sign. Their faith is the sign. And because they persist, life eventually bends to match their inner stance. What seemed impossible becomes inevitable, for they have already lived it within. So do not wait for tomorrow. Assume the end today. Live in the joy, the confidence, and the peace of fulfillment now. For by dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you summon into visibility that which already exists in spirit, and your world cannot help but reflect it back to you. Your outer world is your mirror, faithfully reflecting the image you hold of yourself within. Every experience you encounter, every circumstance you meet, and every relationship you form is feedback from your inner state. Life is not random, nor is it governed by chance. It is the exact outpicturing of who you believe yourself to be. When you look at your world, you are, in truth, looking at yourself. Your assumptions, your self-concept, your beliefs clothed in form. Most people spend their lives wrestling with shadows. They fight against conditions, resist others, and attempt to force change in the external world, all the while ignoring the cause within. But the outer is never the source. It is only the reflection. To attempt to change your circumstances without first changing your inner state is like trying to alter your reflection in a mirror without moving your own body. The moment you shift within, the mirror must adjust, for it has no life apart from you. This principle is both liberating and sobering. It means that you are never truly a victim of circumstances, no matter how convincing they appear. What you encounter is a projection of what you have assumed to be true about yourself. If you believe you are unloved, you will meet experiences that echo rejection. If you assume yourself prosperous, opportunities will arise to confirm your abundance. The mirror cannot lie. It shows you precisely who you are, being inwardly. Yet this is not cause for condemnation, but for empowerment. For if your outer world is only a reflection, then by changing the image you hold within, you can transform your life completely. You do not need to beg others to treat you differently. You do not need to struggle against circumstance. You need only to assume a new state of being. When you believe differently about yourself, the world has no choice but to echo your new belief. Think of it as a conversation between the inner and the outer. The world is continually answering the questions you have asked in silence. It is showing you, through events and encounters, the story you have been telling yourself. If you want a new answer, you must ask a new question. If you want a new reflection, you must embody a new assumption. This is why self-concept is the cornerstone of transformation. You cannot consistently experience what contradicts the truth you hold of yourself. You may temporarily rise above it, but the mirror always returns to the inner picture. To sustain lasting change, you must alter the root, who you know yourself to be. When you claim within, I am worthy, I am chosen, I am abundant, and persist in that knowing, life bends to confirm it. Observe your world not with despair but with curiosity. Ask yourself, what is this reflecting back to me? What belief have I been carrying? Then, if the reflection displeases you, change the image within. For your outer world is your mirror, and by choosing a new inner state, you call forth a new reflection, brighter, truer, and more aligned with who you choose to be. And so, my friends, the truth is simple yet profound. You only need yourself. For imagination is the womb of creation, faith in the unseen is the bridge to the seen, your inner conversation is the script of your destiny, the self is the only true power. Assuming the end calls forth the unseen into visibility, and your outer world is nothing more than the mirror of your inner state. Do not search outside for permission, for authority, or for proof. Everything you seek is already within you, waiting for your acceptance. Dare to believe greatly of yourself. Dare to live in the end boldly. Dare to claim the truth that the world is only showing you what you first accepted inwardly. When you master yourself, you master life. When you know that all power is within, you walk free, unshaken, and full of peace. For you only need yourself, and when you truly realize that, you will find that the self within you is limitless. Thank you. God is already working behind the scenes in ways far greater than your current senses can comprehend. The moment you dared to believe that something better was possible, the entire universe began shifting itself to match the truth you claimed within. Your desire was never random. It was a whisper from the divine, a message that something magnificent was already prepared for you, waiting only for your inner consent. What you feel as longing is actually a spiritual announcement that what you seek is seeking you. Every great movement of God begins in silence, in the unseen, long before it ever reaches the outer world. Too many look for evidence in physical reality, forgetting that the physical is always the final manifestation, never the origin. Your feelings, your assumptions, your inner conversations, these are the sacred tools through which God moves. If you can hold the end in your mind with calm conviction, the outer world will bow to that inner certainty. The big things you're waiting for are not outside of you. They are unfolding because of you. Develop a personal mindset. When nothing seems to be happening, that is often when the greatest work is taking place. The seed does not show its growth while in the soil. The roots form long before the fruit appears. This is the exact process occurring in your life right now. What feels like stillness is actually divine rearrangement. People are being positioned, doors are being aligned, circumstances are being reconfigured. What once felt impossible is quietly becoming inevitable. Your faith is not meant to be a reaction to what you see. It is meant to be the cause of what you will soon see. When you persist in the assumption that things are moving in your favor, you make it unavoidable for life to reflect that truth back to you. Even when the outer world contradicts your belief, even when everything appears unchanged, remain loyal to the inner picture. That inner loyalty is what moves the heavens. That inner conviction is what makes God remove barriers, shift timelines, and alter outcomes on your behalf. Do not measure your progress by what the senses reveal. Your senses can only show you what has already been formed, not what is forming. The unseen is where the miracle starts. Every answered prayer begins as a quiet inner knowing, a subtle feeling that something has already shifted. When you feel that inner completion, the outer world has no choice but to follow. So keep believing, keep knowing, keep seeing the end in your mind as already fulfilled. God is moving big things, things beyond your imagination, things that will make you wonder how it all came together so perfectly. Your only job is to remain faithful to the vision, to the feeling, to the inner victory. Everything else is being taken care of for you. Your miracle is not approaching, it is unfolding. Your blessing is not on its way, it is being arranged. And the moment you fully accept this truth within, the world will reshape itself to prove you right. Keep believing, because the divine shift has already begun in your favor. What you assume as true becomes the very channel through which God moves, shaping your reality with a precision that mirrors the state of your inner conviction. Every assumption is a seed planted in the invisible, and like any seed, it grows according to its nature. When you hold an assumption with feeling, with acceptance, with a quiet certainty that it already belongs to you, you open a spiritual pathway that allows the divine to work effortlessly on your behalf. You are never waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to take a stand in your inner world. The assumption you choose, whether of abundance, love, healing, success, or breakthrough, becomes the mold into which God pours the events, circumstances, and opportunities that align with it. Many believe that external conditions determine their fate, but in truth, it is the inner acceptance that dictates what follows. Every transformation begins by claiming a new identity inwardly. When you assume that you are already the person who has received their desire, you shift from hoping to knowing, from wishing to possessing. And this inner shift is the true signal. This is the language God responds to. Not fear, not doubt, not desperation, but the quiet confidence that the end is already secured. Your assumption becomes the bridge between the invisible and the visible, and once it is firmly held, the outer world has no choice but to rearrange itself to match it. Assumptions are powerful because they bypass willpower and effort. They work in silence, they work in the background, they influence every thought you think, every action you take, every decision you make, and every opportunity that flows toward you. When you assume the best, you tune yourself to the frequency where divine movement becomes natural and effortless. You stop chasing and begin attracting. You stop forcing and begin allowing. You stop pleading with God and begin aligning with Him. For God does not respond to frantic effort, He responds to faith-filled acceptance. And acceptance is nothing more than the assumption that what you desire has already been given. The moment you choose a new assumption, the unseen begins to shift. People start showing up, conversations unfold, coincidences align, and doors open that you didn't even know existed. This is not random. It is the divine acting through the channel you created. God needs your cooperation, but not in the form of struggle or strain. He needs your alignment. He needs your inner consent. And that consent is given through the assumption that it is already done. As you persist in that state. No matter what the senses report, you strengthen the channel and make the outcome inevitable. Your assumption is the cause, your experience is the effect. Whatever you hold as true, even if only in imagination, will eventually harden into fact. God moves through your belief, your acceptance, your inner reality. So choose your assumptions with intention. Choose the ones that honor your worth, your potential, your purpose. For the moment you assume the truth of your desire, you invite God to move in ways that elevate, transform, and bless every area of your life. Your inner acceptance is the signal that activates divine rearrangement, the quiet permission you give to life for the unseen to become seen. Nothing in the outer world can change until it is first accepted within. Every desire, every longing, every vision you carry begins as a subtle thought, a feeling, a conviction that has yet to find its form in the material world. When you fully accept the reality of what you wish for within, you are effectively sending a signal to the universe that it is time for the outer world to catch up. This acceptance is not passive, it is not wishful thinking or blind hope. It is the deliberate acknowledgement that what you seek is already yours, that the circumstances aligning in your favor are already in motion, and that the delay you perceive is simply the unseen work being completed on your behalf. Many people struggle because they seek evidence before they believe. They look to the outer world and say, I cannot see it, so it cannot be true. This is the opposite of the principle at work. The outer world is always a reflection of the inner state. Until you allow yourself to accept what is already yours in consciousness, the world cannot rearrange itself. Inner acceptance is the green light for divine intervention, the signal that allows life to move, shift, and transform in perfect accordance with your desires. The moment you embrace your wish as already fulfilled, you initiate a chain of unseen events that are perfectly synchronized to bring the vision into reality. This is how miracles are orchestrated, silently, invisibly, yet with absolute certainty. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not a surrender to impossibility. It is the confident recognition that the desired outcome exists now in the spiritual realm, and that it is only a matter of time before it manifests materially. By holding this acceptance, you are aligning yourself with the flow of life, creating a resonance that attracts circumstances, people, and opportunities that match the state you have assumed. This inner state communicates to the universe that you are ready, that you are prepared, and that you are in harmony with the end result. Once this signal is sent, life responds in kind. Situations that seemed fixed begin to shift, solutions appear where none existed, and pathways open that you could not have imagined. This is the divine rearrangement in action, the world bending to match the consciousness you have adopted. The beauty of this principle is that it works quietly, without fanfare or struggle. You do not need to force outcomes, manipulate events, or convince others. All that is required is your inner consent, your willingness to believe without seeing. Every time you dwell in the feeling of acceptance, you strengthen the invisible current that shapes your destiny. The circumstances around you may remain unchanged for a while, but within, the rearrangement is already underway. Trust the process, for the unseen always precedes the seen. Your inner acceptance is the signal, the command, and the declaration that makes the outer world bow to the vision you have embraced. When you cultivate this inner state consistently, life has no choice but to respond, and the perfect manifestation of your desire unfolds effortlessly and beautifully. The unseen shifts always come before the visible breakthroughs, for the outer world is never the origin of change. It is merely the reflection of what has already been established within. Before a mountain moves, before a door opens, before a breakthrough becomes apparent, the invisible groundwork is laid. This is the principle that governs every transformation, every answered prayer, and every miracle in life. What you see as delay or inaction is in truth the careful orchestration of forces beyond the senses, aligning, arranging, and preparing circumstances so that when the breakthrough arrives, it arrives fully formed, perfectly timed, and unmistakably yours. Nothing happens randomly, and nothing manifests without first existing in the unseen realm of consciousness. The invisible realm is where belief, feeling, and imagination act as architects, constructing the reality that will eventually appear. Every thought, every inner assumption, every feeling of faith is a signal sent into this unseen domain where divine intelligence responds by shaping outcomes in perfect harmony with your state of mind. When you imagine a reality as already complete, when you dwell in the feeling of having what you desire, you are initiating the unseen shifts that will inevitably lead to the visible manifestation. This is why inner work, mental, emotional, and spiritual alignment is far more powerful than any outward effort. The unseen always precedes the seen, and without it, the breakthrough cannot arrive. Many give up too soon because they mistake the lack of visible evidence for failure. They forget that the unseen is always working, often in ways that are completely imperceptible at the moment. Seeds buried in the soil do not sprout instantly. Roots must form, nutrients must gather, and growth must occur beneath the surface before any green shoot emerges. Similarly, your desires are taking root invisibly, aligning circumstances, attracting people, and orchestrating events in the background. This invisible preparation is not wasted time. It is essential for the breakthrough that appears without sufficient unseen alignment is often incomplete, fleeting, or unstable. True manifestation is born from thorough, unseen work, executed in silence, guided by faith, and sustained by the inner conviction that the desired outcome already exists. To accelerate the manifestation, you must cultivate patience and inner assurance. Focus not on what is visible, but on what is real in the mind and heart. Maintain the feeling of fulfillment, the sense of completion, and the unwavering belief that the breakthrough is already achieved. When you hold this inner state consistently, you strengthen the invisible currents that shape your reality. The universe responds not to your doubts, your fears, or your urgencies, but to the steady, unwavering acceptance of what you wish to see. The unseen shifts, working quietly and purposefully, set the stage for the outer world to bend in accordance with your inner reality. Understand that every visible miracle, every sudden change, and every breakthrough is preceded by unseen movement. The universe is constantly arranging, realigning, and orchestrating to bring the inner state into expression. Your job is to remain aligned, to nurture the belief, to hold the vision, and to trust the invisible process. When you do, the moment arrives when the unseen shifts crystallize into the visible, and your breakthrough appears exactly as it was imagined, perfectly timed and profoundly satisfying. Patience and inner alignment are not just virtues. They are the keys to allowing the unseen to do its divine work before the visible emerges. Your faith is the permission slip that allows big things to form in your favor, the silent declaration that opens the door for divine orchestration to occur on your behalf. Without faith, the universe waits, for it responds not to hesitation, doubt, or uncertainty, but to the unwavering belief that what you desire is already yours. Faith is not a mere hope or wish. It is the inner knowing that the outcome you seek exists now in the spiritual realm and is only waiting for you to align with it in consciousness. When you exercise faith, you are effectively giving the universe the green light to move, rearrange, and manifest circumstances that serve your highest good. It is the key that unlocks unseen doors, the force that mobilizes opportunities, and the signal that what you have imagined is already in motion, waiting to appear. Many people struggle because they look for visible proof before they act or believe. They say, "I will believe when I see it," not realizing that faith is the very mechanism that makes it visible. The outer world cannot precede the inner state. It cannot manifest something that has not already been accepted within. Your faith is therefore not passive. It is the active consent that life requires in order to deliver. It is the declaration that you are ready to receive, ready to embody, and ready to walk into the blessings that are already being prepared for you. Every great achievement, every miracle, every extraordinary shift in life begins with this inner alignment, with the steady, unwavering conviction that the desired outcome exists now, even if the senses cannot yet detect it. Faith also changes the way you move through the world. It aligns your thoughts, words, and actions with the reality you desire, creating a resonance that attracts circumstances and people in harmony with that reality. When you act with faith, you are no longer pushing against life or forcing outcomes. You are allowing life to respond to the state you have assumed. Doors open effortlessly, guidance appears in unexpected ways, and challenges dissolve before they manifest fully, because the energy of faith is shaping the environment around you. It is as if the universe itself responds to the quiet authority of your belief, bending, shifting, and arranging itself to match the inner state you have cultivated. Faith also sustains you during the waiting period. The timing of divine movement is never coincidental. It unfolds when conditions are perfectly aligned for the highest good. During this period, doubt and impatience can undermine your progress, while faith fortifies your position. By maintaining unwavering belief, you keep the channel open for miracles, breakthroughs, and abundance to flow effortlessly toward you. It is faith that transforms delay into preparation, obstacles into opportunities, and uncertainty into a fertile ground for manifestation. Faith is the permission slip you give to life. a declaration that you are ready, deserving, and aligned with the outcome you seek. It signals the universe that you are prepared to receive, and in response, big things begin to form in your favor. Faith is the silent, powerful command that sets the divine machinery in motion, ensuring that everything is arranged perfectly, invisibly, and inevitably until your desired reality appears in its full, magnificent expression. But delay is never denial. It is the preparation of circumstances aligning perfectly for you, the unseen orchestration that sets the stage for your desires to manifest in the most complete and powerful way. Many misunderstand delay as a sign that their dreams will never come true, that life is against them, or that the universe has forgotten them. In truth, delay is the silent work happening behind the scenes, where the unseen forces of life are arranging everything in precise order. What appears as waiting is in reality divine timing at work, ensuring that when your breakthrough occurs, it arrives fully formed, stable, and in perfect alignment with your highest good. Every delay is purposeful, designed not to frustrate you, but to prepare the outer world to reflect the inner reality you have claimed. When you desire something deeply, your mind often wants immediate evidence, yet the physical manifestation of your desire cannot leap ahead of the inner state that creates it. The unseen must first move. Conditions must align, circumstances must adjust, opportunities must be placed, and people must come into position. All of this takes time, not because you are being denied, but because life is carefully constructing the environment that will perfectly accommodate your vision. Impatience disrupts this process. Faith sustains it. By remaining aligned with your inner knowing, by holding the vision as already fulfilled, you allow the preparation to unfold without resistance, ensuring that the manifestation is not only inevitable, but effortless and complete. Delay also serves as an opportunity for refinement. During periods of waiting, your beliefs, attitudes, and inner assumptions are tested. Are you willing to remain steadfast in your inner conviction, even when the outer world seems contrary? Are you able to persist in the feeling of fulfillment even when proof is not yet visible? These moments of apparent delay are designed to strengthen your faith, to deepen your alignment, and to perfect the inner state that will ultimately attract the desired outcome. The universe waits for you to reach this alignment because the outer world cannot manifest what your inner consciousness is not fully prepared to accept. Delay is, therefore, not a punishment or a setback. It is a vital part of the creative process. Delay often works in ways that surpass your imagination. While you wait, unseen opportunities, coincidences, and arrangements are taking place that you cannot yet perceive. People, resources, and circumstances are being subtly guided into position so that when the time is right, your desire emerges fully supported, leaving no gaps, no struggles, and no compromise. What might have manifested prematurely could have been incomplete or temporary, but the deliberate timing ensures that the manifestation is perfect, lasting, and aligned with your highest good. To navigate delay successfully, trust the process, remain faithful, and continue to dwell in the feeling of the fulfilled desire. Understand that the unseen is always working, even when the senses report nothing. Delay is the universe's preparation, the careful alignment of every element necessary for your success. When the manifestation finally appears, it will not be partial or forced. It will be complete, harmonious, and exactly as you imagined. Delay is never denial. It is the perfect, invisible preparation that ensures life moves in your favor with precision, power, and grace. When you stay loyal to the end result, God moves mountains to meet you there. Loyalty to the end result is the unwavering inner commitment to the reality you desire, the steadfast refusal to let temporary appearances, obstacles, or doubts shake the certainty that what you have imagined is already accomplished. It is not enough to wish, hope, or even feel inspired occasionally. True manifestation requires consistent fidelity to the vision, a dedication that outlasts setbacks, delays, and the seeming contradictions of the outer world. When you remain loyal in this way, you are no longer a passive observer of life. You become an active participant in the orchestration of your reality. The universe cannot help but respond, for loyalty is the signal that activates divine cooperation, the magnetic force that draws circumstances, people, and opportunities into perfect alignment with your inner state. Loyalty to the end result begins within. It is a decision to dwell in the feeling of the fulfilled desire, to imagine the outcome vividly, and to accept it as fact, regardless of what the senses report. The outer world is rarely the proof of fulfillment. It is the effect of what has been established internally. Mountains of doubt, opposition, or difficulty may appear, yet they are powerless against the steadfastness of inner loyalty. Each moment that you resist the temptation to waver, to doubt, or to surrender, you are strengthening the invisible current that carries your desire into manifestation. This inner constancy is what separates fleeting wishes from real, tangible outcomes. The universe responds not to the intensity of effort, but to the persistence of faith, the loyalty to the vision that refuses to yield under pressure. When you stay loyal to the end result, life begins to conspire on your behalf. Doors open where they seemed locked. Resources appear where scarcity was evident, and solutions present themselves where problems seemed insurmountable. Mountains shift quietly, imperceptibly, yet powerfully, to clear the path for your desire to manifest. This is the divine intelligence at work, responding to the signal of your unwavering loyalty. It is not about forcing circumstances or controlling outcomes. It is about maintaining your inner state, allowing the outer world to align itself with the reality you have embraced. The greater your loyalty, the more extraordinary the response. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable because you have refused to let temporary appearances dictate your conviction. Loyalty also strengthens your resilience. Life's challenges will test the firmness of your belief, but each trial is an opportunity to deepen your fidelity to the end result. As long as you remain aligned, holding the feeling of fulfillment, the universe continues to orchestrate conditions in your favor. Mountains do not resist forever. They move for those who do not move from their inner certainty. Your role is to remain steadfast, to imagine, to feel, and to accept, while life arranges the circumstances to support your vision. Staying loyal to the end result is the key that unlocks extraordinary manifestations. It is the inner authority that commands the outer world, the unwavering faith that compels divine movement, and the steadfast devotion that ensures every obstacle, delay, and challenge is transformed into a stepping stone toward fulfillment. God moves mountains for those who remain loyal. For loyalty is the signal that your desire is ready to be received, and nothing can stand in the way of a mind and heart fully aligned with its truth. What if the thing you are waiting for is not ahead of you, but already finished? What if the life you desire is not being built piece by piece, but exists in its entirety, waiting only for your acceptance? This is not a message of hope for the future. It is a declaration of truth in the present. Creation is complete. Nothing is missing. Nothing is unfinished. The only movement required is not in the world, but within you. Every desire you hold arises from fulfillment, not from lack. You would not feel the pull towards something unless it already existed in a form you are capable of receiving. Desire is not a sign of absence. It is evidence of readiness. The moment the desire appeared in your awareness, its completion was already established. Your role is not to make it happen, but to allow it to enter your experience. The outer world is not the source of your life. It is the reflection of your inner state. What you consistently assume to be true about yourself, about life, and about possibility hardens into fact. Circumstances do not have creative power. They are rearranged shadows responding to the inner position you occupy. When you change your assumption, the world has no choice but to follow. Time is often misunderstood as the creator, but time creates nothing. It merely reveals what has already been accepted. The delay you perceive is not proof that something is missing. It is an invitation to look within and ask whether you have truly allowed yourself to receive. Acceptance is the moment creation becomes visible. When you internally consent to the reality of fulfillment, time collapses and the bridge of events forms naturally. Feeling is the language through which reality is impressed, not emotion, but the quiet, settled knowing that something is done. When you feel from the end, when you rest in the inner atmosphere of completion, you are no longer trying to get, you are simply being. From that state, effort dissolves, struggle fades, and life begins to cooperate in ways that feel almost effortless. Resistance does not stop fulfillment, it only delays recognition. The world is already moving. Doors are already opening. People, opportunities, and circumstances are already aligning. Your task is to release the need to control the how and the when, and instead occupy the certainty of the now. When you stop questioning whether it will happen and begin knowing that it is happening, the shift is immediate. So stand in the calm confidence of completion. Walk, speak, and think as one who knows the work is done. You are not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to agree. It is already complete. Now it is entering your world. Realization is finished. And this truth changes everything the moment it is understood. What you call a desire is not something being formed or created in the future. It is evidence of something that already exists in its complete and perfect form. Nothing comes into your awareness unfinished. The very fact that you can imagine a fulfilled state means that it already has reality beyond the limits of your senses. Desire is not a request to the universe, nor is it a sign that something is missing. It is an invitation to recognize what is already yours. Most people believe they must struggle, work, or wait for time to shape their dreams into form. Yet time creates nothing. Time merely reveals what has already been accepted internally. When you hold the assumption that fulfillment is distant, life mirrors that belief through delay. But when you accept that creation is complete, waiting dissolves. You stop asking when and begin resting in the certainty that it is done. This inner shift removes the pressure to force outcomes and replaces it with quiet confidence. The outer world has never been the source of your success, happiness, or abundance. It is only the stage upon which your inner convictions are displayed. What you persistently assume to be true about yourself becomes visible through circumstances, people, and events. If the desire exists within you, then the completed version of it must also exist. You are not meant to create it, chase it, or earn it. You are meant to align with it. Alignment does not require effort, it requires acceptance. The moment you internally agree that your desire is already fulfilled, your role changes from seeking to allowing. You begin to feel differently, think differently, and respond to life from a place of certainty rather than hope. This feeling of completion is not excitement or emotion, but a calm knowing. It is the sense of relief that comes when you realize there is nothing left to do. Doubt may arise, not because fulfillment is uncertain, but because old assumptions are dissolving. When the mind resists this truth, it is only reacting to unfamiliar freedom. Persistence in the assumption of completion gently reshapes your inner world, and the outer world must follow. Circumstances reorganize naturally, without strain or force, to reflect the state you now occupy. Understand this clearly. You are not waiting for creation to happen. Creation has already happened. What appears as delay is simply the interval between recognition and manifestation. When you accept that your desire exists now in its fulfilled form, you step out of struggle and into alignment. From that state, life moves effortlessly, and what was once imagined becomes visibly real, right on time. What you assume as true within determines what appears without, whether you are aware of it or not. Life is not responding to your wishes, your words, or even your actions as much as it is responding to your deepest assumptions. These assumptions are the quiet agreements you make with yourself about who you are, what is possible, and what you can expect from the world. Once accepted, they operate automatically, shaping your experiences with precision and consistency. An assumption is not something you occasionally think about. It is something you live from. It is the inner position you return to when no one is watching. If you assume that life is difficult, circumstances will repeatedly confirm struggle. If you assume that opportunities are scarce, doors will appear closed. The world does not argue with your assumptions, it reflects them faithfully. This is not punishment or reward, it is simply alignment. The inner world is the cause, and the outer world is the effect. Trying to change appearances without changing assumptions is like attempting to alter reflection without touching the mirror. You may adjust your behavior, surroundings, or strategies, but if the inner belief remains unchanged, the same patterns will reappear in new forms. True transformation begins when the assumption itself shifts. When you consciously choose an assumption, you are choosing a future experience. To assume something as true is to feel it as real now, even before any physical evidence appears. This does not require blind optimism or forced belief, it requires acceptance. The moment you accept an idea as natural and normal, it begins to externalize. Life reorganizes, subtly at first through thoughts, impulses, conversations, and coincidences, until the assumption becomes visible fact. Many people wait for proof before they allow themselves to believe, but proof always follows belief, never the other way around. The world must reflect your inner agreement, but it can only do so after that agreement is made. When you assume from the end, feeling inwardly as though the desire is already fulfilled, you step into a state that the outer world must eventually match. Resistance often arises because old assumptions feel familiar, even when they are limiting. Releasing them can feel like stepping into the unknown, yet the unknown is only unfamiliar, not unsafe. As you persist in a new assumption, it stabilizes and the world adjusts accordingly. People change, situations shift, and opportunities appear without effort or force. Understand that nothing outside you has independent power. Circumstances, history, and conditions are not deciding your life. They are responding to your inner stance. When you change what you assume to be true within, you change the script life must follow. The outer world has no choice but to echo your inner conviction, because it always has and always will. Time does not create, acceptance does. This truth dissolves the belief that waiting longer will somehow bring fulfillment closer. Time itself is neutral. It has no power to shape your life or produce outcomes. It merely provides a sequence through which what is already accepted becomes visible. When you believe that time is the cause, you place your power outside yourself and unknowingly agree to delay. But when you understand that acceptance is the true creative force, you reclaim authorship over your experience. Most people spend their lives waiting for the right moment, the right conditions, or the right timing. They believe that if enough time passes, circumstances will change on their own. Yet nothing truly changes until there is an inner shift. You may wait years for something to happen, but if you have not accepted it internally, time will only extend the waiting. Delay is not caused by lack of time, it is caused by lack of acceptance. Acceptance is not passive resignation. It is a conscious inner agreement that something is already true. The moment you accept a fulfilled state as natural, your relationship with life changes. You stop striving and start allowing. You no longer look to the future with hope or doubt, but rest in the quiet certainty of now. This inner consent is what sets everything in motion. When acceptance occurs, the mind and emotions align with the new reality. Thoughts begin to shift effortlessly, reactions soften, and expectations change. From this new inner position, your actions become inspired rather than forced. You may be guided to speak to someone, move in a certain direction, or make a decision that feels natural rather than strategic. These are not random actions, they are the bridge through which acceptance expresses itself in form. People often ask how long manifestation takes. But the better question is how long it takes to accept. The moment acceptance is complete, the experience is inevitable. Time may still be involved in the unfolding, but it no longer feels like waiting. It feels like confirmation. What once seemed distant begins to approach naturally, without effort or struggle. Resistance to acceptance usually comes from attachment to old identities or past experiences. Letting go can feel like losing control, when in truth it is gaining freedom. When you release the need for proof and choose acceptance first, you step out of limitation and into alignment. Life responds not to your impatience, but to your inner agreement. Understand this deeply. Time is only the stage, not the actor. Acceptance is the decision that gives the script meaning. When you stop waiting for time to change your life and instead accept fulfillment now, you remove the only barrier that ever existed. Creation does not happen with time, it happens the moment you agree. Feeling is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the invisible link that carries an idea from imagination into lived experience. Thoughts alone do not shape reality, nor do words spoken without conviction. It is the feeling that gives life to an inner assumption and signals its reality. Feeling is not emotion in its dramatic sense. It is the subtle, inward sense of knowing that something is true. When you feel a state as real, it begins to take form. The unseen realm is where every possibility already exists. It is the space of imagination, assumption, and inner awareness. Yet possibilities remain dormant until they are energized by feeling. Feeling is what impresses an idea upon consciousness. It is the moment you move from thinking about a desire to experiencing it inwardly. Without feeling, an idea remains distant. With feeling, it becomes intimate and alive. When you enter the feeling of fulfillment, you are no longer waiting for proof. You are occupying the state that naturally produces the proof. This inner experience changes your posture toward life. Your reactions soften, your expectations shift, and your behavior subtly aligns with the reality you have accepted. You begin to live as the person who already has, rather than the person who hopes to receive. This is how the bridge forms, quietly, naturally, without force. Many people try to force emotion, believing intensity creates results. But forced emotion often carries tension and doubt. True feeling is calm, stable, and effortless. It is the relief of knowing, the peace of completion. It does not demand attention. It simply exists. When this feeling becomes familiar, it anchors the unseen state into your awareness, making it inevitable in the outer world. Feeling also determines how long something takes to appear. When the feeling of fulfillment is inconsistent, the bridge feels unstable. You move back and forth between knowing and doubting. But when the feeling becomes natural, when it feels like the normal state of being, the bridge solidifies. Life then arranges itself to match what you are consistently feeling to be true. The outer world cannot respond to wishes or affirmations spoken without feeling. It responds to the inner atmosphere you live in. That atmosphere is defined by feeling. If you feel valued, life reflects value. If you feel secure, life mirrors stability. The world is not responding to your effort, but to your inner state. Understand that feeling is not something you wait for circumstances to provide. It is something you choose internally. When you deliberately feel from the end, you step onto the bridge between the unseen and the seen. From there, manifestation is not something you chase. It is something that follows. The unseen becomes visible because feeling has already made it real. Resistance delays nothing except your recognition. What you are seeking is not being held back, postponed, or denied. It already exists in its complete form. Resistance does not stop fulfillment from unfolding. It only keeps you from seeing and receiving what is already prepared. The delay you experience is not in the movement of life, but in your awareness of what life is already offering. Resistance often appears as doubt, overthinking, fear, or the need for constant reassurance. It is the inner argument against acceptance. When the mind questions how, when, or whether something will happen, it shifts attention away from completion and back into lack. Yet nothing is actually interrupted. Life continues to organize itself according to your deeper assumptions, even while the conscious mind resists. The only thing resistance affects is your sense of peace and certainty. Many believe that struggle is necessary, that effort proves worthiness, and that resistance somehow protects them from disappointment. In truth, resistance only prolongs confusion. It keeps you focused on appearances instead of reality. The moment resistance is released, clarity returns. You do not make something happen by letting go. You simply allow yourself to notice what has already been forming. Recognition is the key moment when fulfillment becomes obvious. It is the shift from seeking to seeing. Resistance delays this recognition by keeping attention fixed on what seems absent rather than what is present in unseen form. When you resist, you remain mentally positioned as someone waiting. When resistance dissolves, you step into the position of someone receiving. Resistance often comes from attachment to old identities. If you have long defined yourself by struggle, uncertainty, or lack, fulfillment can feel unfamiliar or even unsafe. Letting go of resistance means letting go of who you thought you had to be. This can feel unsettling, but it is also liberating. The discomfort is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of expansion. Nothing outside of you needs to change before you release resistance. Waiting for circumstances to improve before you relax only reinforces delay. When you allow yourself to soften now, life responds naturally. Opportunities become noticeable, conversations take on new meaning, and paths that were always present become visible. What changed was not the world, but your readiness to recognize it. Understand this deeply. Resistance has never protected you, and it has never stopped creation. It has only kept you distracted. When you stop fighting, questioning, or bracing against possibility, recognition happens effortlessly. You realize that fulfillment was never far away, it was simply waiting for you to stop arguing with it. When resistance ends, recognition begins, and what was once unseen steps naturally into view. When you align your inner state, reality rearranges itself effortlessly because the outer world is always responding to the position you occupy within. Alignment is not about forcing positive thoughts or controlling emotions. It is about settling into a state that feels natural, true, and complete. When your inner world is coherent, when your thoughts, feelings, and assumptions point in the same direction, life reflects that coherence without struggle. Most effort comes from inner contradiction. You may desire one outcome while assuming another is more likely. You may speak words of confidence while feeling uncertainty underneath. This inner conflict creates friction, and that friction is mirrored as obstacles, delays, and confusion in the outer world. When alignment occurs, that friction disappears. There is no resistance within, so there is nothing for life to push against. Alignment begins with identity. Who you believe yourself to be determines how you interpret and respond to everything. When you internally accept a fulfilled state as your new normal, your reactions change automatically. You stop chasing confirmation because you already feel confirmed. From this place, actions arise naturally. You are guided rather than driven. Decisions feel obvious instead of stressful. This is not effortlessness born from inaction, but from inner clarity. The ability to connect with ourselves. And reality rearranges itself through subtle shifts rather than dramatic force. People may respond to you differently. Opportunities that once seemed inaccessible appear without explanation. Timing improves. You find yourself in the right place at the right moment, not because you planned perfectly, but because your inner state is synchronized with your experience. Life always seeks balance, and when your inner world stabilizes, the outer world follows suit. Trying to control outcomes often signals misalignment. Control comes from doubt, from the belief that without constant management things will fall apart. Alignment removes this fear. When you trust your inner state, you stop micromanaging life. You allow events to unfold, knowing they are responding to something already settled within you. This trust is what makes the process feel effortless. Effortlessness does not mean instant perfection, it means ease in the unfolding. Even challenges, when they arise, no longer feel like obstacles. They feel like movements within a larger flow. You meet them with calm rather than resistance. knowing they are temporary expressions adjusting to your new inner position. The struggle disappears because you are no longer arguing with what is happening. Understand that alignment is always available now. You do not need to wait for external validation to feel complete. The moment you choose an inner state and remain faithful to it, reality begins its quiet reorganization. When your inner state is aligned, life does not need to be forced. It responds naturally, smoothly, and inevitably, rearranging itself to reflect the truth you have already accepted within. As we come to the close of this message, remember this truth above all else. Nothing you desire is missing, delayed, or unfinished. Creation is complete. What you assume within, accept as true, feel as real, and allow without resistance becomes the reality you experience. Time does not create your life. Your inner agreement does. Feeling builds the bridge, alignment removes effort, and recognition reveals what was always prepared for you. When you stop trying to make life happen and instead rest in the certainty of fulfillment, the world responds naturally. Reality has always been listening to who you believe yourself to be. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your willingness to receive. You already have it, not as a future event, not as a distant possibility, but as a present fact established within consciousness. The moment a desire appeared in you, it was not a suggestion of lack, it was proof of ownership. Nothing enters awareness without first being sanctioned by a deeper law. Desire is the echo of fulfillment calling you to recognize what is already yours. Most people believe receiving is something that happens after effort, struggle, or waiting. But receiving is not an action, it is a state. It is not something you do, it is something you allow by remaining aligned with the certainty of possession. The only requirement is readiness, and readiness has nothing to do with external conditions. Readiness is an inner posture, a quiet acceptance that says, "This is mine, and I am available for it now." To stay ready to receive, you must release the habit of scanning the world for confirmation. The outer world is always delayed. It reflects what has already been accepted within. When you look outside too soon, you introduce doubt. When you look inside and remain settled, you maintain authority. The one who knows does not rush, does not beg, and does not chase signs. Knowing is calm, knowing is still. Faith is often misunderstood as emotional intensity or hopeful wishing. True faith is far simpler and far more powerful. It is the absence of inner argument. It is the end of negotiation with life. Faith is when the mind stops asking how and rests in done. When faith is present, anxiety fades, not because everything has appeared yet, but because nothing needs to be forced. Staying ready means you do not mentally rehearse disappointment. You do not prepare yourself for delay. You do not protect yourself from imagined failure. Those habits signal mistrust. Instead, you live from the assumption that fulfillment is normal, expected, and appropriate. You move through your day as one who is already supported, already chosen, already supplied. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is confidence. When you know something is yours, you do not grip it tightly. You relax. You do not fear losing it because you are not trying to get it. You are simply allowing the natural sequence of expression to unfold. Timing is not your responsibility. Alignment is. Your role is not to manipulate circumstances, but to maintain identity. When you remain identified with the version of yourself who already has, circumstances reorganize without instruction. Life rearranges itself to match the assumption you consistently occupy. Doors open not because you knocked harder, but because you arrived knowing they were meant for you. Readiness is reflected in how you respond to the present moment. Do you complain or do you trust? Do you resist or do you allow? Every reaction is a confession of belief. Choose responses that align with fulfillment, speak from completion, think from stability, act without desperation. Receiving does not require perfection, it requires allowance. Even doubt loses power when it is not entertained. You do not need to fight opposing thoughts. You only need to stop feeding them. Return again and again to the quiet knowing. This is already established. Persistence is not force, it is loyalty to that knowing. When the moment of physical arrival comes, it will feel natural, not dramatic. That is how you will know it is real. Manifestation never shocks the one who has already accepted it. It arrives like a long expected guest, welcomed without surprise. So stay ready, stay inwardly open, stay settled in the assumption of fulfillment. You already have it, and because you know this, receiving becomes inevitable, not as a miracle, but as a reflection of who you chose to be. Desire is not a sign of absence. It is a signal of ownership operating beneath conscious awareness. Nothing arises within the mind without first existing as a possibility already approved by a deeper level of consciousness. If something were truly foreign to you, it could not appear as a desire at all. Desire emerges because, at some level, the experience is already claimed. It is the inner announcement of what has been accepted as yours before it becomes visible in form. Most people are conditioned to interpret desire as proof that something is missing. This misunderstanding creates tension, striving, and impatience. But desire does not come to torment you, it comes to awaken you. It is not asking you to chase, beg, or force reality into compliance. It is inviting you to recognize an existing truth and align with it. The moment you feel desire, the work is not to pursue it, but to assume it. At the deepest level, consciousness does not operate in time. It does not distinguish between now and later. When a desire is impressed upon it, the impression is treated as fact. The delay that appears in the outer world is not a denial. It is simply the time it takes for the inner assumption to reorganize perception, behavior, and circumstance. Desire, then, is evidence that the seed has already been planted. Your task is not to dig it up repeatedly to check if it is growing, but to let it mature in its own way. When you understand desire correctly, urgency dissolves, anxiety fades, because you no longer feel separated from what you want. You stop asking when it will happen, because you no longer experience it as distant. You begin to live from a quiet expectancy, a natural confidence that does not need reassurance. This inner shift is the bridge between wanting and having. Desire becomes painful only when it is resisted or questioned. When you argue with it, doubt it, or label it unrealistic, you interrupt the natural flow of fulfillment. Resistance creates the illusion of struggle. Acceptance restores ease. To accept desire is to say, this belongs to me, and therefore it is allowed to appear. There is no force in this acceptance, only recognition. The moment you stop treating desire as a problem to solve, It transforms into guidance. It shows you the direction of your becoming. It reveals the version of yourself that already exists in potential. Desire is not pointing outward, it is pointing inward, toward an identity that is ready to be embodied. As you begin to honor desire as evidence of possession, your relationship with life changes. You become calmer, more grounded, and more trusting. You stop chasing outcomes and start aligning with states. You move from effort into allowance. In this state, fulfillment is no longer something you hope for, it is something you expect. Desire is consciousness remembering itself. It is the echo of completion calling you to match it. When you no longer treat desire as lack, it completes its purpose. What was once felt as longing becomes certainty, and certainty naturally expresses itself as experience. Readiness is not found in external arrangements, lists, or preparations. It is a condition of the mind and heart. Many mistake readiness for action. They believe that acquiring resources, planning, or waiting for the right moment constitutes being ready. In truth, all external preparation is meaningless unless it is accompanied by an inner state that aligns with what is to be received. Readiness begins within, in the quiet recognition that you are already equipped to handle, experience, and embody the fulfillment of your desire. To be ready is to be settled, to have no inner conflict, and to possess a calm confidence that what you seek is already yours. External circumstances may fluctuate, people may resist, and opportunities may appear delayed, but these fluctuations have no bearing on true readiness. They are irrelevant when the mind has already assumed the state of having. When you understand this, preparation becomes internal rather than external. The mind becomes the workshop, the emotions, the instruments, and the imagination, the rehearsal space for living in the end of your desire. Many struggle because they wait for conditions to be perfect before they feel ready. They say, I will be ready when I have the money, the connections, the timing. But external perfection is never guaranteed, and relying on it is a trap. Real readiness ignores timing, ignores circumstance, and ignores the how of manifestation. It rests in the inner certainty that all required alignment has already taken place, and therefore the external world is only a reflection of what has been assumed internally. The moment you accept that readiness is internal, fear and hesitation dissolve. You stop postponing life until conditions align, and instead become a magnet for those conditions to naturally arrange themselves. Inner readiness also allows for effortless reception. When you are internally prepared, the universe does not need to struggle to meet you. It simply flows. Opportunities, relationships, insights, and resources present themselves because you are now compatible with their vibration. The outer world always follows the inner state. The one who is ready internally does not have to manipulate, chase, or compel. The state of readiness alone opens the door. Being internally ready also transforms your response to the present moment. You stop resisting what appears and stop forcing what hasn't yet manifested. You move with fluidity, patience, and quiet confidence. You no longer measure yourself by external benchmarks or judge the process. You rest in a knowing that fulfillment is inevitable because you are aligned with it internally. The external will always mirror this state. Readiness is not a checklist. It is the state of being that allows you to fully receive, to act decisively when opportunity arises, and to live in harmony with the inevitability of your own manifestation. When you cultivate this inner readiness, nothing in the external world can surprise you or throw you off balance. You are prepared, not by circumstance, but by consciousness itself. Faith is often misunderstood as an emotional surge, a forceful attempt to believe against the evidence, or a desperate hope that somehow things will work out. True faith, however, is far quieter, deeper, and more potent. It is a settled state of mind that carries no strain, no agitation, no pleading. It is certainty, not in the sense of wishful thinking, but in the sense of inner knowing that your desire is already accomplished and that the reality of it exists independently of current appearances. Faith is not a task, it is a condition of consciousness, effortless because it is natural. Many people attempt to feel faith through emotions, trying to manufacture excitement or conviction. This only creates tension and resistance because faith is not emotional. It is mental and existential. When you truly have faith, there is no need to argue with reality, to convince yourself, or to resist doubt. Faith rests beyond doubt. It does not contend with appearances or wait for proof. It does not fluctuate with circumstances. It is a quiet, unwavering acknowledgement that what is desired is already present in the deeper order of life and will express itself in the outer world in due time. Faith is aligned with identity, not with external events. It is the inner certainty that allows the mind to dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled. When faith is genuine, it does not react to delays or setbacks because it knows that time and circumstance are secondary. What matters is alignment with the inner reality of fulfillment. Faith is calm because it is aware that everything needed for manifestation is already in motion, whether seen or unseen. So, it is patient because it trusts in the natural unfolding of what consciousness has assumed. This quiet certainty shapes perception and experience. The one who embodies faith sees opportunities, resources, and guidance where the doubting mind sees obstacles. Faith is not about hoping or desiring. It is about accepting, knowing, and living from completion. When you act from this state, actions are inspired rather than forced. Decisions are guided rather than frantic, and life flows without struggle. This effortless alignment with reality opens doors that effort alone cannot. Faith also transforms the inner dialogue. Instead of questioning, worrying, or negotiating with reality, the faithful mind rests in assurance. Doubt may appear, but it cannot take hold, because faith is stronger than hesitation. It does not fight doubt, but ignores it, returning always to certainty. It is steady, unwavering, and self-sufficient. It does not demand reinforcement from the outer world because it is already validated by inner awareness. The thought spirit takes every true faith is the ultimate expression of alignment. It is the silent power that converts assumption into experience, inner certainty into outer manifestation. It does not need to be felt intensely, it simply needs to be known. And when it is known, the universe responds naturally, effortlessly, and inevitably. Detachment from timing is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful principles of manifestation. Most people believe that the realization of a desire is dependent on a strict timetable, a sequence of events, or their own ability to force circumstances to align. They measure progress by external markers and grow anxious when the desired outcome does not appear on schedule. This attachment to timing is the very obstacle that delays fulfillment. True detachment, however, liberates the process. It allows what is already established in consciousness to express itself naturally in the external world. Detachment from timing does not mean passivity or neglect. It does not suggest ignoring your goals or ceasing inspired action. Rather, it is a conscious recognition that the universe operates beyond your perception of time. What you have assumed in your mind, what you have already accepted as real, is independent of the calendar, the clock, or the sequence of events you imagine. The manifestation is already complete in the inner realm. Your only task is to maintain a state that reflects that completion. Clinging to timing creates inattention. When you insist that your desire must appear by a certain moment, you are essentially arguing with life, implying that the natural order is insufficient. This inner struggle generates doubt, frustration, and impatience. These emotions are counterproductive because they are misaligned with the state of having. Detachment, on the other hand, fosters calm and trust. When you release control over timing, you stop resisting the present moment, and your energy flows freely. Fulfillment is then allowed to appear in the most harmonious way, often surpassing your limited expectations. Detachment also strengthens faith. The mind no longer vacillates between hope and despair, between expectation and fear. Instead, it rests in the quiet knowledge that what is already assumed cannot fail to appear. Time becomes irrelevant because you understand that manifestation is a matter of inner alignment, not chronological scheduling. The outer world is simply a mirror reflecting the state you occupy within. By detaching from timing, you remove the mental obstacles that cloud perception and delay the reflection of your desire. Detachment creates receptivity. When you are free from the pressure of deadlines, you are more open to opportunities, guidance, and unexpected channels through which your desire can manifest. The universe responds naturally to a mind that is settled and patient. The manifestation arrives with ease, without struggle, because nothing is being forced and everything is allowed. Detachment from timing is the art of aligning with the inevitable. It is the recognition that fulfillment is already established in consciousness and that the outer world will conform in its perfect moment. By letting go of timelines and surrendering the when, you create space for the effortless expression of your desire. Peace replaces urgency, trust replaces worry, and life unfolds in accordance with the law that what is yours will appear, always, inevitably, and beautifully. Inner alignment is the cornerstone of effortless manifestation. Most people attempt to create change through external effort, striving, forcing, or trying to manipulate circumstances to conform to their desires. Yet, true transformation does not begin outside. It begins within. Alignment is the state in which your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and assumptions are all synchronized with the reality you wish to experience. When this inner harmony is achieved, resistance dissolves automatically because opposition exists only where there is misalignment. Resistance is not an external condition, it is a reflection of inner discord. Doubt, fear, and frustration arise when the conscious mind desires one thing while the subconscious mind clings to a conflicting assumption. This inner conflict generates tension, uncertainty, and struggle in life. The outer world simply mirrors this state, presenting obstacles that appear to justify your lack of progress. But the obstacles are not the source of difficulty. They are the signal pointing to what must be harmonized within. When you align internally, resistance loses its grip, because nothing inside is opposing the expression of your desire. Inner alignment requires clarity of assumption. It demands that you fully accept in thought and feeling the reality of what you wish to experience. This means imagining, believing, and feeling from the state of the wish fulfilled, rather than from the vantage point of lack. Alignment is not about forcing the mind to think positively or pushing away negative thoughts. It is about establishing a stable, unwavering assumption that serves as the foundation for experience. Once this foundation is in place, resistance, the tension between what is assumed and what is desired, vanishes naturally. Emotions play a crucial role in alignment. When your feelings resonate with the reality you wish to create, you are no longer generating friction in the field of consciousness. Calm expectancy replaces anxiety, confidence replaces doubt, and peace replaces struggle. These emotional states are not manufactured. They arise naturally from the certainty that your desire is already accomplished at a deeper level. Alignment is therefore effortless because it is not about controlling the world. It is about embodying the inner truth that what is already yours must express itself outwardly. Inner alignment also transforms perception. Challenges and delays no longer appear as threats or barriers. They are neutral events passing through a mind that remains centered in its own assumption. The outer world conforms automatically because the inner state dictates the pattern of experience. When there is no internal resistance, there is nothing to reflect externally that contradicts the fulfillment of your desire. Inner alignment is the silent engine of manifestation. It eliminates the need for struggle, for chasing, or for convincing life to cooperate. Resistance cannot exist where harmony is complete. By cultivating alignment, you allow your desires to flow naturally into expression, effortlessly, without force and in perfect timing. The moment you align within, the outer world begins to yield to your inner reality, proving that all true power resides in the state of consciousness you choose to maintain. Receiving is never a matter of chasing, forcing, or convincing the outer world to comply. It is a natural outcome when identity aligns with expectation. Most people believe that they must earn, struggle, or wait for circumstances to change before they are ready to receive. In reality, the capacity to receive is determined not by external conditions, but by the state of consciousness you inhabit. When your identity, the version of yourself you assume to be real, matches the expectation of fulfillment, receiving flows effortlessly as a natural reflection of who you are. Identity is the foundation of experience. Whatever you consistently identify with becomes your point of attraction, your lens through which life is filtered. If you see yourself as someone lacking, struggling, or unworthy, the world will mirror that perception and opportunities will be filtered through doubt and limitation. On the other hand, when you assume the identity of one who already possesses, the expectation of fulfillment becomes coherent with your sense of self. The alignment between identity and expectation generates a state in which receiving is not exceptional, it is ordinary, inevitable, and natural. Expectation is the mental and emotional companion to identity. It is the quiet certainty that what you desire is already yours, expressed in thought, feeling, and assumption. When your inner world expects completion, the outer world responds. Receiving is never delayed or blocked when identity and expectation are synchronized. Resistance, hesitation, and uncertainty arise only when there is a mismatch. When the mind expects one thing, but the sense of self identifies with another, this conflict creates friction, and the outer world mirrors it. Harmony, however, dissolves that friction effortlessly. When identity matches expectation, you no longer need to chase outcomes. Opportunities, resources, and experiences present themselves spontaneously because your inner state resonates with the reality you have assumed. The act of receiving becomes effortless, not because life has been manipulated, but because the outer world naturally conforms to the inner. You embody the energy of having, and having attracts itself into expression. The outer is always a reflection of the inner. When alignment is complete, manifestation is automatic. This principle also transforms your relationship with waiting, timing, and desire. You no longer feel incomplete while anticipating fulfillment. You live from the end, enjoying the state of the wish fulfilled. Your actions, words, and emotions reflect completion rather than lack. And this vibrational harmony allows life to deliver without struggle. Receiving is no longer a goal. It is a natural expression of your assumed reality. The universe does not need to convince you or teach you a lesson. It simply responds to the reality you are embodying. Increasing is a mirror of identity. When who you are matches what you expect, fulfillment is inevitable. The act of receiving flows effortlessly, gracefully, and naturally, because there is no internal conflict to obstruct it. Align the self with expectation, and the world aligns in return. The moment your identity embodies the reality you desire, receiving becomes effortless, as simple and natural as breathing, proving that you are always ready to experience what you already are. In conclusion, the path to fulfillment is not found in struggle, external effort, or waiting for the right circumstances. It begins within, in the quiet recognition that what you desire is already yours at a deeper level of consciousness. Desire signals possession, readiness is an inner state, and faith is the calm certainty that removes all doubt. Detachment from timing allows manifestation to unfold naturally, while inner alignment dissolves resistance automatically. When your identity matches your expectation, receiving becomes effortless, natural, and inevitable. Life responds not to your chasing, but to the state of being you maintain, reflecting back to you the reality you have already assumed. By embodying these principles, you align yourself with the effortless flow of fulfillment, moving through life with confidence, peace, and certainty. Thank you. Imagine for a moment that everything you have ever asked for, every prayer spoken in faith, every silent yearning of your heart is already on its way to you. The universe, the infinite intelligence, the unseen forces that shape reality, everything is moving to bring your desires into form. Yet there is one condition. You must stand ready. Standing ready does not mean rushing or worrying. It means being fully aligned with the state of having already received. It is not about asking again or doubting. It is about living as if your wish is already fulfilled. Every thought, every feeling, every action must echo the reality you wish to inhabit. For the unseen does not distinguish between imagination and reality. It responds to the state you occupy within yourself. Do not mistake the silence of the external world for denial. What seems like delay is often the perfect orchestration of circumstances. Your desires are arranging themselves invisibly in ways that will make their manifestation inevitable and seamless. Life is preparing to hand you your request, but you must remain loyal to the inner conviction that it is already yours. Every desire you have placed before God is already manifesting in the unseen. Signs will appear, doors will open, and opportunities will arrive. Your task is to notice them with gratitude and to maintain your inner state. Doubt, fear, or impatience will only cloud the clarity of your expectation. The world mirrors what you assume to be true. Therefore, assume the end, feel the satisfaction, and watch as reality bends to your inner certainty. Manifestation is not about changing the world, it is about changing your consciousness. When your consciousness reflects the reality of your fulfilled desire, the external world will respond naturally. You are the axis, the pivot around which your desires revolve. Stand ready. Prepare your mind, your heart, and your life to welcome what you have already asked for. Everything you have asked for is moving toward you. Stand ready, embrace the feeling of its arrival, and receive it with unwavering faith. This is the moment where your prayers, your hopes, and your dreams meet reality. All that you have asked is not only possible, it is inevitable and it is yours. Your imagination is far more powerful than most people realize. It is not just a mental escape or a playground for fantasies. It is the very instrument through which reality is created. Every experience you have in your life, every circumstance that appears in your outer world, first took form in the mind. What you assume to be true in your imagination inevitably expresses itself in your life because consciousness is the cause of all manifestation. When you vividly assume something to be true in your mind, your outer world begins to align with that inner state, whether you are consciously aware of it or not. This is why imagination is often called the invisible workshop of reality. It is the space where your desires take shape long before they appear in the material world. To understand this, consider the simple truth that nothing exists first in the outer world. Every invention, every achievement, every act of creation first exists in the mind of someone. A writer imagines a story before it becomes a book. An engineer envisions a structure before it becomes a building. A business owner imagines success before it appears in revenue or recognition. The same principle applies to your personal desires. If you wish for abundance, love, health, or any specific goal, it must first exist in your imagination as a living reality. You must feel it, see it, and assume it as already true. Your imagination is not merely a reflection of the world. It is the blueprint from which reality is drawn. Vividness is key. Merely thinking about a desire in abstract terms does not create reality. The mind must be fully engaged, alive with the sensation of what it would be like if the desire were already fulfilled. When you imagine a scenario vividly, using sight, sound, emotion, and sensation, you are impressing your consciousness with a reality that your subconscious mind can act upon. This is why daydreams that are emotional and detailed are more potent than vague wishes or fleeting thoughts. The mind responds to the intensity and clarity of your assumptions, and life adjusts to match them. Many people live unaware of this power. They focus on what they see in the world, believing that the outer circumstances are the cause of their life experiences. Yet the truth is that the outer world is always a mirror of the inner state. If you imagine scarcity, struggle, or failure, you will attract circumstances that reflect those assumptions. Conversely, if you vividly imagine success, joy, and fulfillment as your present reality, The world will gradually rearrange itself to match that state. The key is consistency. You must remain faithful to your imagined reality, returning to it often until it becomes a natural part of your consciousness. Imagination is not just a tool, it is the creative force through which life itself flows. By consciously using it, you can direct your experiences, shape your future, and manifest the life you truly desire. What you imagine with clarity, feeling, and faith will inevitably emerge in your outer world. Your imagination is the invisible workshop where every desire is forged, and once properly impressed upon your consciousness, nothing can prevent it from taking form. Faith is often misunderstood as mere hope or wishful thinking, but true faith is far more profound and powerful. Faith is not passive. It is an active, living conviction that what you desire is already yours. It is the unwavering belief in the unseen, the certainty that the outcome you seek has already taken place in the realm of consciousness. This inner assurance acts as a bridge between your desires and their manifestation. It connects the invisible world of thought, feeling, and imagination with the tangible reality of your life. Without faith, your desires remain trapped in the realm of possibility, never crossing over into actuality. With faith, the unseen becomes visible, and what you believe internally begins to shape the circumstances, events, and people around you. Faith is more than thinking positively or repeating affirmations. It is the internal state of knowing. It is a feeling that what you desire is already accomplished, even before the outer evidence appears. When you embrace this living conviction, your mind, emotions, and actions begin to align with the reality you wish to experience. Your thoughts become coherent with your desire, your feelings reflect the satisfaction of having it, and your actions, even unconsciously, are guided by the certainty that your wish is already fulfilled. In this way, faith serves as a bridge because it unites your inner world with the outer manifestation. It ensures that your internal assumptions, your beliefs and expectations are carried into external reality. Many people struggle with faith because they equate it with blind optimism or denial of present circumstances. True faith, however, does not ignore the current situation, it transcends it. It acknowledges the external conditions but remains unmoved in its conviction that the desired reality already exists in the unseen. This steadfast belief is what allows faith to be transformative. When you consistently live in this state of inner certainty, life begins to reorganize itself. Opportunities appear, people respond, and circumstances shift, not because of luck, but because your inner state is now aligned with the reality you have assumed. Faith also serves as the medium through which imagination becomes reality. Imagination alone can create possibilities, but without faith, those possibilities remain dormant. Faith animates imagination, giving it the power to impress your subconscious mind and move the invisible forces of creation. It is the living current that carries your inner assumptions into form, bridging the gap between thought and experience. Every act of manifestation begins with this bridge. Faith is the secret power behind every realized desire. It is the force that converts dreams into reality, wishes into lived experience, and hopes into certainty. When you cultivate unwavering faith in what you desire, you are not waiting for it to happen, you are already living in its reality, internally. This alignment between belief and manifestation is the bridge that transforms the invisible into the visible. And through it, all that you imagine and believe can and will come into your life. To truly manifest your desires, you must learn to live in the feeling of your wish already fulfilled. It is not enough to hope, plan, or even visualize what you want. The core of creation lies in feeling the end result as if it has already come to pass. The sensation of fulfillment, the inner knowing, the emotional experience of having what you desire, acts like a magnet, drawing your wish from the invisible realm into tangible reality. This principle is simple yet profound. The outer world always reflects the inner state. If you live in the feeling of lack, scarcity, or incompletion, your reality will mirror that. If, however, you inhabit the state of fulfillment, your external circumstances must align with that inner conviction. Feeling the end fulfilled is more than mere imagination. It is a full engagement of your senses and emotions with the reality you desire. Close your eyes and picture your wish as already accomplished. Notice the excitement, the joy, the relief, the pride, or any emotion that would naturally arise if your desire were real. Imagine the details vividly, the sights, the sounds, the environment, and the people around you. Allow yourself to step fully into the experience, as if you are living it in the present moment. This emotional involvement is what impresses your subconscious mind, the powerful creative faculty that shapes your reality. When your subconscious is convinced that the desire is already true, it moves to bring the outer world into agreement with your inner state. Many people make the mistake of focusing on the process or the how of their desires. They think that manifesting something requires figuring out the steps, manipulating circumstances, or waiting for external conditions to align. In reality, the process is inward first. By feeling the end fulfilled, you bypass doubt, delay, and uncertainty. The outer world is compelled to conform to the inner state you occupy. The sensation of already having your desire energizes your thoughts, words, and actions, subtly guiding you toward opportunities and people that reflect your fulfilled state. Consistency is key. One fleeting moment of imagining fulfillment will not change your reality. You must persistently return to the feeling, day after day, until it becomes your natural state of consciousness. In this way, you are not pretending or faking, you are training yourself to inhabit the reality that is waiting for you. Every desire begins in the invisible world of thought and feeling. To bring it into the visible world, you must act as if it already exists, and the most powerful way to do this is through feeling. Living in the feeling of the end fulfilled transforms not only your circumstances, but your very being. You become a person who naturally embodies the reality you desire. Your mind, emotions, and spirit align, creating a coherent state that cannot help but manifest outwardly. The sensation of fulfillment is the bridge between imagination and reality, the secret that turns wishful thinking into actual living experience. By feeling the end fulfilled, you invite the universe to respond, and your desires move effortlessly from the unseen into the tangible world. Persistence is the quiet but unstoppable force that ensures your desires move from imagination into reality. To persist means to remain unwaveringly loyal to the vision you have assumed in your mind, regardless of appearances, circumstances, or the opinions of others. It is the inner discipline of holding firmly to your conviction that what you have imagined and felt as real will inevitably manifest. The outer world is always slow to reflect the truth of your inner state, but persistence bridges this gap. By maintaining steadfast belief and consistent focus on your desired outcome, you compel the world to align itself with your inner reality. Many people falter in the process of manifestation because they allow doubt, impatience, or the visible conditions of life to sway them. They assume that because their desire has not yet appeared, it has been denied. Yet the truth is that manifestation is never immediate in the physical sense. It is the cumulative result of your sustained inner assumption. The world only responds when the consciousness behind a desire is fully resolved and unwavering. Each moment you persist, each time you return to the feeling of the fulfilled desire, you are effectively sealing the door against doubt and reinforcing the reality you wish to see. This loyalty to the inner vision is what ultimately guarantees success. Persistence is not merely repeating affirmations or visualizing sporadically. It is the continuous, unshakable alignment of your thoughts, emotions, and inner attention with the reality you have assumed. It is living from the end every day, even when external circumstances seem to contradict your desire. The key is to trust the invisible process, knowing that your unwavering inner conviction exerts a powerful influence on reality. Life rearranges itself subtly, often in ways you do not immediately recognize, to accommodate your persistent assumption. Opportunities, coincidences, and helpful circumstances appear as a natural extension of your steadfast state. The world always conforms to the state of consciousness you occupy. If you vacillate between belief and doubt, the manifestation will be delayed or distorted, but persistence locks the door to uncertainty and opens the path to inevitable fulfillment. Imagine persistence as a silent, invisible force quietly working behind the scenes to align every circumstance with your inner certainty. Each time you return to the feeling of fulfillment, you reinforce the reality you have assumed and gradually diminish the power of the outer world's temporary appearances. Persistence is the expression of faith made active. It is the discipline of living in the end, regardless of what you see, hear, or experience in the physical world. By remaining loyal to your vision, you are planting seeds that cannot fail to grow. The universe, or the creative intelligence behind all life, responds to this inner loyalty, and slowly but surely, the outer world begins to mirror the inner conviction you have steadfastly maintained. Persistence is the key that transforms imagination into reality, ensuring that every desire you have assumed as true will one day manifest exactly as you have felt it in your inner consciousness. In the process of manifestation, it is easy to misinterpret events, encounters, or challenges as signs of delay or denial. Yet every detail of your life, every seeming obstacle or unexpected circumstance is actually part of the invisible orchestration of your desire. The world you see is only the reflection of the inner reality you occupy, and everything that appears externally is responding to the state of your consciousness. When you understand this, you realize that nothing is ever truly against you. Even what seems like a setback is a signal, a confirmation that your desire is being formed in the unseen and that the process is moving according to perfect order. Too often, people look at delays or difficulties and conclude that their desire will never materialize. They forget that manifestation is governed by the unseen, not the visible. The outer world is always slower to reveal the truth of what is happening internally. Every meeting, every conversation, every chance encounter, every obstacle, and every delay is a piece of the intricate puzzle that is being assembled on your behalf. These are not signs of failure, but signals that your imagination and inner assumptions are being brought into alignment with the physical world. They are evidence that the creative process is in motion. Signs can appear in many forms: a person showing up at the right moment, an opportunity presenting itself, an unexpected answer to a problem, or even circumstances that challenge you to maintain your focus on the fulfilled state. All of these are confirmations that your desire exists in the unseen and is beginning to influence the visible. Even obstacles have a purpose. They teach you patience, refine your focus, and strengthen your conviction. They are not denials, but rather reminders that manifestation operates according to your inner state, not according to your timetable or expectations. When you interpret events as confirmations rather than delays, your inner state remains steady. You do not waver in belief or allow frustration to disturb your feeling of fulfillment. Instead, you recognize that the invisible forces are arranging themselves perfectly for your desire to appear. This awareness transforms your perception of reality. What once seemed like obstacles now become evidence of progress, encouragements to maintain faith, and reminders that the world is aligning with your vision. The key is to maintain a vigilant and discerning inner attention. Notice the subtle signs and cues that life provides, but do not be swayed by appearances. Every experience is a reflection of the creative process, and your task is to remain firmly anchored in the end result. By interpreting events as confirmation, you empower your imagination and faith, reinforcing the inner state that inevitably produces the external manifestation. Signs are never a reason for doubt. They are the language of the unseen, communicating that your desires are forming in accordance with the assumptions you hold. By embracing this understanding, you maintain unwavering confidence, persist in the feeling of fulfillment, and allow the perfect orchestration of events to bring your inner reality into the visible world. Every event, every seeming obstacle, every coincidence confirms that your desire is already unfolding, and nothing can prevent its ultimate manifestation. Manifestation is not a passive process. It requires a state of readiness that goes beyond mere hope or wishful thinking. To be ready to receive means that your inner consciousness is fully aligned with the reality of your desire. It is a complete acceptance that what you have imagined and assumed as true already exists, and a willingness to embody that reality in every thought, feeling, and action. The external world is a mirror of your inner state. When you are prepared internally, when your mind and emotions resonate with the fulfillment of your desire, the outer world responds naturally and effortlessly. Manifestation flows more smoothly when you are ready to receive it, because resistance is always the result of inner misalignment. Being ready to receive requires a deep trust in the unseen process. It is the understanding that your desires are already forming, and that the universe, or the creative intelligence behind life, is orchestrating circumstances to bring them into physical expression. This trust removes the need for anxious striving, forcing, or overthinking. Instead, readiness is a relaxed confidence, a quiet knowing that your wish is already accomplished. It is not waiting for evidence or signs to prove your desire. It is living from the end, fully inhabiting the state of having what you want as if it is already yours. Readiness also involves purification of thought and feeling. Every doubt, worry, or inner resistance creates a block to the smooth reception of your desire. If you want to receive fully, your consciousness must be free of contradiction, This means aligning your assumptions, your beliefs, and your emotions with the reality you wish to experience. When your inner world is coherent, the outer world naturally conforms. You do not need to manipulate circumstances or chase opportunities. Your readiness alone is enough to draw the appropriate events, people, and experiences into your life. Another aspect of readiness is vigilance, actively maintaining the state of fulfillment in your imagination and emotions. Life constantly presents distractions, challenges, and doubts that can pull you out of alignment. Being ready to receive means returning without hesitation to the inner state that matches your desire. It is a disciplined awareness that keeps your consciousness anchored in the feeling of already having, rather than longing, lacking, or questioning. Readiness to receive transforms the way you act in the world. Your thoughts, words, and actions naturally reflect the inner reality you occupy. You move with confidence. You make decisions from the standpoint of already having what you desire, and you attract circumstances and individuals that harmonize with that state. The universe has no choice but to respond to the fully aligned consciousness because everything outside you is a reflection of what is inside. Manifestation is complete when you are ready to receive. It requires alignment, trust, inner purification, and vigilance. When your inner state mirrors the reality you desire, the external world obeys without resistance, seamlessly bringing your imagination into form. By being ready to receive, you remove obstacles, accelerate the process of manifestation, and allow your desires to flow naturally into your life. Readiness is not passive. It is the conscious preparation for the inevitable arrival of your fulfilled dreams. In conclusion, everything you have ever asked for, every desire you have placed before God, is already in motion. Your imagination, your faith, your persistence, and your readiness are the invisible instruments shaping your reality. The events, encounters, and even seeming obstacles in your life are not signs of denial, but confirmations that your desires are being orchestrated perfectly in the unseen. By living in the feeling of fulfillment, remaining loyal to your vision, and aligning your inner state completely with your desires, you create a bridge between the invisible and the visible, allowing manifestation to flow effortlessly into your life. Stand ready, trust the process, and embrace the certainty that what you have asked for is already yours. Thank you for being present, for opening your mind and heart to this truth, and for stepping into the reality of your fulfilled desires. Your readiness is the final key. Receive all that is meant for you with faith, joy, and gratitude. Thank you.